So Ibn Hisham was talking about um, the meaning of the sentence ضرب فعل ماض uh, and saying, for example, اضرب فعل أمر. And he was saying, this is the sentence that is done for parsing the Arabic sentence. These are sentences used in parsing Arabic sentences. So then he parsed those sentences and he said, ضرب in ضرب فعل ماض and اضرب in اضرب فعل أمر. These are nouns. And then he mentioned how someone disagreed with him, said it's not a noun. How would it be a noun? Just as a taqdir here. The taqdir is kalimatu daraba, fi'lun madi. So Ibn Hisham said, well, if that's the case, how did then, according to your example, it became a mudaf ilayhi? Which he didn't offer an answer from that person for, as if he silenced him. And so he talked about this. He's proving that when you say daraba fi'lun madin or ibrib fi'lu amr, that you're saying daraba and ibrib in these instances are actually nouns. This is what we learned. And then he said something about Ibn Hisham and Abu Hayyan being mistaken.
Is that Khalil and you said Ibn Hisham?
Ibn Hisham, yeah, Ibn Hisham said something about Ibn Malik and Abu Hayyan being mistaken.
Yes, mashallah.
And we read this paragraph actually here. I'll read it again. He said, وَقَالَ لِي بَعْضُهُمْ. Some said, meaning, probably meaning someone, one person said to me, one of them said to me, كيف تتوهم أن ابن مالك اشتبه عليه الأمر في الاسم والفعل والحرف? How do you imagine that Ibn Malik, of all people, was confused about the matter or was ambiguous to him, unclear for him, the issue of the noun and the verb and the particle? Man, he's Sheikh of Mutaakhirin. فقلت, I said, I responded, كيف توهم ابن مالك أن النحويين كافة غلطوا في قولهم إن الفعل يخبر به ولا يخبر عنه وإن الحرف لا يخبر به ولا عنه. He said, I responded, how did Ibn Malik imagine that all of the grammarians were mistaken when they said that the verb is used to tell about and is not told about, and the particle is neither used to tell about nor is told about? Yani, the verb is used as a predicate and does not have a predicate. And the particle is neither used as a predicate, nor does it have a predicate. Now, this sentence here, I'm saying predicate. So he says, as you can see, he says, Innal fi'la yukhbaru bihi. Yukhbar. This is why I'm using the word predicate now in my translation. Because of the ikhbar. But this telling, but that's why at the first time I said telling, you don't tell about it. Not merely as a crude translation for predicate, which it was, but because really it covers something more. Covers predicate, and it covers adjective. Because the predicate is a kind of adjective. A predicate is a kind of adjective. Or maybe it's the other way. An adjective is a kind of predicate. But I think predicate is kind of adjective is better. Meaning they have similar function. Not exactly the same function, but similar function. There's three things in Arabic that have similar function. Al-khabar, and not, which is as-sifa, and al-hal. All these three things, they have some things in common. A verb can't take any of those. You cannot assign a khabar for a verb, nor in Arabic language can you assign a description for the verb. You cannot describe the verb in Arabic. Nor can you put, so here is the hal. This hal, it's not really describing the verb. That's what they would call adverb. Adverb in English is how to describe the verb. So, and we investigated this before. Let's look again. Bismillah. So, you would say in English, for example, Sam ran swiftly. And so they say swiftly is an adverb. And it is describing the running. And therefore, according to them, it is possible to describe a verb. Now, if we said in Arabic, rakada, zaydun, sari'an, someone might translate that as Zayd ran swiftly. But Sari'an, they're going to say Sari'an is a description of Zayd, not the Raqib. So they're not describing the verb, according to them. They're describing the doer of the verb here. Or you say, for example, Raqibtu al-farasa musrajan. I rode the horse, saddle. So musrajan is description of the horse, which in this case is maf'ul bihi. In the first case, the hal described the fa'il, not the fi'l. In the second case, the hal described the maf'ul bihi, not the fi'l. Allah says in the Quran, وَجَاءَ من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى. Maybe it's not the same. This maybe is not the same now that I'm looking at this here. Yas'a, if yas'a is describing rajul, then it's a not a have. No, I didn't hear it. So ja'a huwa. Is it possible that yas'a is a hal for huwa? That's why I wrote the ayah in the first place. That's what came to my mind. Then after I wrote it out, I saw something else. Ja'a yas'a. Ja'a huwa yas'a. If it were, then that's a hal. Ja'a yas'a. He came rushing. That's a verb though. Yas'a is a verb. He came rushing. He came rushing. In this case, it's have because huwa is ma'rifah. Either way, though, it's not describing the majid. Yes, here is not describing the majid. That's the point, really, I want to get to. Though. And even if yes, goes for rajul and not for huwa, it still fits what I'm telling you about that. There's three things that have something in common: a khabar, a sifa, which is a not, and a have. If yes, here is for rajul, then it's a not. If yes, is for huwa, then it's a have. Either way, it's not describing ja'a. So, so now it's more clear the meaning of his sentence. He says, someone asking him, how do you imagine that Ibn Malik is confused about this issue? One person, I mean, of all people. So Ibn Hisham said, and how did Ibn Malik imagine that all of the grammarians are wrong? It's like Ibn Malik saying to him, it's like Ibn Hisham saying to this person, you find it far-fetched that I could imagine that Ibn Malik made a mistake? Why? Because he's Ibn Malik? What? He's a single human who's not impeccable. How could this single human who's not impeccable think that all of the grammarians, you can know my case about one person, here's someone, he imagined that all of the grammarians are wrong. When they said that a verb is not told about, that a verb is used to tell about and it's not told about. Yeah, and you use a verb to be a predicate. You use a verb to be an adjective. You use a verb to be an adverb. وَلَا يُخْبَرُ عَنْهُ. You don't tell about a verb. You don't bring a predicate for a verb or an adjective for a verb or an adverb for a verb in Arabic. So this is something I've been trying to wrap my mind around very well. Because usually what's true in Arabic usually is true in English as far as the syntax that we are discussing now, like how the words are interacting. Like this is a great departure that we could have in English. The likes of Sam ran swiftly and then validly say according to them. So Yani, I'm skeptical if it's valid, but I didn't really put my finger on it yet. That swiftly is describing ran. And the reason the grammarians, the Arabic grammarians, they say the verb cannot be described. They say because the thing that can be described in the first place can be a subject. If something can't even be a subject of a sentence, then it cannot be described. It is something that can be a subject, so that's a noun. It is something that can be a subject that can be described. So Sam ran swiftly. So according to the Arabic grammarians, they're saying swiftly is the adjective of Sam, not ran. So I didn't get my finger on there. Yeah, very well. Allahu ya'limuna ameen. So
And
he says to that person, and how did Ibn Malik imagine that all of the grammarians were mistaken when they said that a verb is uh, used to tell about and is not told about, and a particle is neither used to tell about nor is told about. وممن قلد ابن مالك في هذا الوهم أبو حيان. يعني to me, if, if I'm feeling Ibn Hisham properly, there's exclamation points here. Ibn Hisham even went there. I mean, sorry, Abu Hayyan. I don't know. قال ولا بد للمتكلم على الاسم أن يذكر ما يقتضي وجه إعرابه. I think we read all of this. I think it's okay. And it is necessary. It should be. It's a must that the speaker, I mean, the parser, the sentence parser, the mu'arib, that's what he's talking about. The mu'arib, the mu'aribun, the parser. And it is necessary for the speaker who's the parser. The one who's speaking, المتكلم على الاسم أن يذكر ما يقتضي وجه إعرابه. For the parser to mention the perspective of the i'rab, the perspective of the i'rab, not just the i'rab, rafa', nasb, jar, etc. The perspective of the i'rab. كقولك مبتدأ خبر فاعل مضاف إليه. Yeah, like he says مبتدأ مرفوع مضاف إليه منصوب, or مضاف, no, that's مضاف إليه, sorry, مضاف إليه مجرور, not just مجرور only. وأما قول كثير من المعربين, as for the saying of many parsers, مضاف أو موصول أو اسم إشارة فليس بشيء. As for the saying of many parsers, mudaf, without saying the i'rab, or mawsul, without saying i'rab, or ism ishara, this is nothing. لأن هذه الأشياء لا تستحق إعرابا مخصوصا, because these things do not deserve any particular i'rab. Yani when you say mudaf, this could be marfu', mansub, majroor. When you say mawsul or ism ishara, this could be fi mahal rafa', fi mahal nasr, fi mahal jar. So he says, فَلَيْسَ بِشَيْءٍ. This is nothing. This is not the way to parse. لأن هذه الأشياء لا تستحق إعرابا مخصوصا, فالاقتصار في الكلام عليها على هذا القدر لا يعلم به موقعها من الإعراب. And so limiting one's speech to these names to this amount. By that, the if one were to do that, the Arab spot would not be known. The actual Arab itself would not be known. وإن كان المبحوث فيه مفعولا عين نوعه. So we read all this. We talked about the mafa'il. If the case in question, if what yani, the subject of the research, meaning we're researching here while parsing, meaning we are determining the position of each word. If it's a maf'ul, then the parser uh, should determine which type of maf'ul it is. فقيل مفعول مطلق أو مفعول به أو لأجله أو معه أو فيه أو فيه. And so it is said during the parsing, maf'ul mutlaq, absolute, the absolute object, if you want, the absolute object, or uh, object of, or direct object, li ajlihi, or the object of motivation, mahu, or uh, the object of simultaneity, fihi, or the spatial or temporal object. Spatial or temporal object. Maybe there's better translations for those. So I'll remind you though what they are.
Yeah, I like that. That was a good translation of that. I'd never heard that expressed.
So maf'ul mutlaq is the object of its own verb. You say darabtuhu darban. So you're going to say darban maf'ulun mutlaq mansub. Maf'ul bihi, you know that. We'll say, it's like to say daraba zaydun amran. So you're going to say amran maf'ulun bihi mansub. And maf'ulun li ajlihi. Yani, the object of motivation. Like you say, ضربه تأديبا. He beat him, يعني تأديبا له, to teach him manners. He beat him تأديبا. So you're going to say تأديبا, يعني that's مفعول لأجله. That's why he did it. So you're going to say تأديبا منصوب, مفعول لأجله منصوب. مفعول لأجله منصوب. This has other names too to remind you. We say مفعول مفعول له. It's called also al-maf'ulu lahu. And it's also called al-maf'ulu min ajlihi. المفعول من أجله المفعول لأجله المفعول له. And also we have مفعول معه, the simultaneous object, something like that. Like you say, جاء الأمير والجيش. جاء الأمير والجيش. So you're going to say الجيش مفعول معه منصوب. And مفعول فيه, you would say ضربه تحت الشجرة يوم الأحد. ضربه تحت الشجرة يوم الأحد. So you're going to say تحت, ضربه تحت, تحت مفعول فيه منصوب, ويوم مفعول فيه منصوب. And now Ibn Hisham is about to tell us. And if you want, you can say ظرف منصوب تحت ظرف منصوب يوم ظرف منصوب. And if you want, you can say تحت ظرف مكان منصوب يوم ظرف زمان منصوب. He said وجرى اصطلاحهم على أنه إذا قيل مفعول وأطلق لم يرد إلا المفعول به. And the norm of their terminology became that when it is merely said maf'ul, unrestrictedly, without qualification, then nothing is meant but the direct object itself, al-maf'ulu bihi, not another one of the mafa'il. لما كان أكثر المفاعيل, since it was the most frequent of maf'uls, dawran, in circulation, fil kalam, in speech, خففوا اسمه, then they lightened its name. Yeah, and here Ibn Hisham is not objecting. That's compliant. That's what the scholars do and what the Muslims do, and that's what Arabic language does. وإنما كان حق ذلك أن ألا يصدق إلا على المفعول المطلق. And however, for that to be literally true, that would only, if that were literally true, it would only apply to the maf'ul mutlaq. Why? Because maf'ul mutlaq, like we just saw, ضربته ضربا. ضربا here is receiving its own verb, ضربته ضربا. So that's مفعول mutlaq. Ibn Hisham is saying the parsers, they frequently say maf'ulun mansub, and they don't say maf'ulun bihi mansub. And he's saying that is better to say maf'ulun bihi mansub, but it's normal amongst them to say maf'ulun mansub. And the only reason why they do that is because that maf'ul bihi is most frequent maf'ul in circulation. But if this word were to be for anyone maf'ul, merely maf'ul, for any of the different kinds of mafa'il, then it would be for the maf'ul mutlaq. Because really maf'ul mutlaq is the fundamental and quintessential maf'ul. Because any action you do, there is always a maf'ul mutlaq implied. Because you darabtuhu darban, you don't have to say darban, because for sure you darabtahu darban. Akaltuhu aklan, for sure you aklan akaltahu, for sure. Or akaltu aklan.
In the verse وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا, that is that mutlaq?
Yes, it is. That's maf'ul mutlaq. وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. So then what's the benefit of bringing the masdar out if the mentioning of any and every verb, it does imply actually a maf'ul mutlaq, even if we don't say the masdar. What's the point of saying the masdar if the meaning of maf'ul mutlaq is always present? The answer is that the point of actually mentioning the maf'ul mutlaq is verbalizing the emphasis. If you don't mention the maf'ul mutlaq, then there's no emphasis. The meaning of the maf'ul mutlaq is there because if you say darabtu, then there was a darb involved. If you say akaltu, then there was an akal involved, and etc. So if you said itma'anantu, then there was an itma'anan involved. So maf'ul mutlaq is always present. But without mentioning it, it is not emphasized. By mention, it's going to be in the form of masdar fundamentally. Maf'ul mutlaq is going to be a masdar fundamentally. So it is the object of its own verb. And this is why, really, this is the one that, if anything, deserves to be called merely maf'ul, it's this one. But it's not as frequently mentioned, as frequently circulated as a maf'ul bihi. So the maf'ul bihi was given that abbreviation. The maf'ul bihi was given this abbreviation that is really more deserved by the maf'ul mutlaq. So I think that's clear. If you have questions, you can ask. He says, وَلَكِنَّهُمْ لَا يُطْلِقُونَ ولكنهم لا يطلقون على ذلك اسم المفعول إلا مقيدا. He said, rather, they don't use the name maf'ul for the maf'ul mutlaq without qualifying. بقيد الإطلاق, without using the qualifier al-itlaq, yani like saying mutlaq. وإن عين المفعول فيه, and if the parser determines the spatial or temporal object. فقيل, and it was then said, ظرف زمان أو ظرف مكان فحسن. That's fine. ولا بد من بيان متعلقه كما في الجار والمجرور الذي له متعلق. You must mention the muta'alliq or the muta'allaq for the dharf, just like the jar and the majroor. So, for example, you have a sentence. You said, قرأت درسي. Uh, تحت الشجرة. Or let's use something else since we said this already. Let's say, uh, what am I doing here? Oh, okay, I know it. قرأت درسي قرب النهر. ساعة, for a time. I read my lesson close to the river for a time. So then when you want to parse korba, you're going to say, you could say maf'ulun fihi. And Ibn Hisham is saying, but if you were to say zarfu zaman, that's good. Hassan. And sa also can be maf'ul fihi. And if you want, you can say ظرف مكان. So you need to specify when you are parsing, is what Ibn Hisham is saying. ولا بد, and what? What is it linked to? This kurba. It's linked to qara'tu. Always going to be linked to a verb. Also, sa'atan. Also, sa'atan is linked to kurba. So you say, وقرب مفعول فيه منصوب or قرب ظرف زمان منصوب وعلامة نصبه فتحة. So Ibn Hisham is saying, then you need to say متعلق بقرأت. متعلق بقرأت. That's something that we were saying a lot in the likes of a sentence like this, and maybe sometimes the students wouldn't say about the muta'alliq thing. In some sentences, for sure, you're going to mention the ta'alluq. What is it related to? And some sentences, maybe you'd be doubtful if you need to. Okay, so I think we should stop here.
Yeah, Ustad, I had a question on one of the sentences that you wrote. I was trying to understand on the blackboard that you had. This sentence, let me see, where is it? Scroll down a little bit. Wait a minute. Let me see. Sorry. Yeah. مع مفعول معه جاء الأمير
Yes.
والجيش. Could you
Yes.
make i'rab for that sentence? I didn't understand
Yes.
that. I know your point was to bring out the مفعول معه, but I didn't still understand why the fatha was on the jaysh. But could you make i'rab for that?
Yeah. جاء فعل ماض مبني على فتح ظاهر والأمير فاعل مرفوع وعلامة رفعه ضمة ظاهرة والواو واو المعية لا محل لها. It has no slot of i'rab in the sentence. والجيش مفعول معه منصوب. So what made it mansub is the verb. The verb interacting with this wow. So is that clear? That's it.
No, I just the wow is what I think confused me for a minute. I thought it was like the altar flip was just like
it's valid. It's a valid i'rab though. If you say this wow is harf atuf, then you're gonna say wal jayshu.
Yeah, I think that's where and you said it was wow ma'iyya.
Yeah, wawul ma'iyah, yes.
Okay. I think there was one other question I had. When you said something was mudaf ilay, and then but it looked like it had a fatha on it. It was in the earlier. Yeah. Yeah. Down a little bit before. I guess, yeah. This number 2, this one here, when the Rakitu al-Fars.
Al-Faras.
Al-Faras, naam. Maybe that wasn't the one. I'll look back, inshallah. I don't want to hold you. I'll look back, and because that it was something that apparently I was lacking in understanding in the sentence. But I didn't want to stop. So inshallah.
Okay. I'll let you look then, inshallah. I mean, if you remember what it's about, then maybe I'll remember. But